2022 Endurance E-Racing World Championship brought to you in partnership with Viper Gaming by Patriot, Aztec Sim Sports, Global Flix, Motorvision.tv, Stengolm, ESTV and Film Vault Limited.
Racing for Green is here to help you carbon neutralize your racing. By planting new trees, Racing for Green offers to make your racing carbon neutral. We already have the calculations, contacts, infrastructure, deals and solutions ready for you to easily buy carbon neutral laps on any racetrack. It doesn't matter if you are a racing fan, team owner, driver, sponsor or partner. Anyone can buy CO2 neutral laps in the Racing for Green webshop and trade CO2 emissions for New Forest. Racing for Green.
So we are into the deep of night here at Matsusaka for the opening round of the 2022 GTR 24H Endurance E-Racing World Championship. Alex Goldschmidt now rejoined by Kieran McGinley. There you go, nice little wave for you people at home. Hello. Right, so things are changing every single time we head back out on to the track. Glam Racing at the moment are leading in GT3 with Lee Russell behind the wheel. It looks like there has been a change for the lead in that particular category. Alexander Zeka in second for the 585 by Volante Racing by Aztec Simsport. B32 Racing finished last in qualifying last night. They are currently up to P3. And in terms of what's going on here, Michael Ciccolini, Gert Nielsen, Adam Surej, there's 6 cars, the 7th unfortunately falling by the wayside with regards to the number 13 car, CKR, entrant from Brazil, out of the race I'm afraid, and it has been in the garage for a considerable amount of time. Manuel Biancolila leads the way for the 54 Musto Pescara MPE car ahead of Gogo Balog for Mugen Sim Racing, with Joao Barbosa now rounding out the top 3, having making his way out of the pit lane, with Ricky Jimenez for MCM Motorsport completing the top 4, with Nikolai Bezrukov completing the top 5 for Unison Racing in the 717 GTE entry. We have got a yellow out, and that is Michael Pedersen. I think there's just brought that out as we're on board with one of the LMP2 cars. Looks to be Team Iris, I believe, judging by that livery. So the 166 ID Simsport car, I think, brought out the yellow in Sector 2. And LMP2 at the moment, it's Nabil Aslan, having gotten past Rasmus Andreasen, leading the way in the LMP2 class, and has got a gap of now nearly 8.7 seconds. Michi Hoyer, I think, is now coming into the pit lane in the number 18 Burst Esports Simplexity car. Just going to try and find that vehicle now as we speak. And they're leading by leading Lorenzo De Cutis ahead of Artem Shulayev for Unison Racing. So it's Burst Esports Simplexity, Radness E-Stars in second, Unison Racing third, Team Adrenaline with Francis Wamash Senior behind the wheel, Alistair Young in fifth in the Sem 9 Axle number 11, and Team Viaducton in sixth place in the number 1 car. And Kieran, it all kicked off when you stepped away for a short while, didn't it?
Didn't it just? I mean, Yusuf does know when to come in and take all the bits of action away. But no, it was all going to come to a head eventually. It just so happened when I was on a bit of a short break. But nevertheless, I'm sure there's plenty more action to happen with the remaining 8 hours of the race left to run. And what's also happened is someone's turned the lights out on the track. It's got very dark very quickly.
Yeah, we were waiting for the deep of night to come in. So you can see that the LMP2 leader... My apologies there. Ooh, whoops, sorry. My bad.
You got scolded for that.
I got my knuckles wrapped considerably. Whoops! Sorry, Peter Muncole. Yeah, you can see it's been well, I've been here for quite a considerable amount of time. I've been here since Tuesday with a lot of work going on behind the scenes, but at least the good thing is we're all here, we're all enjoying it, and the leaders were the leaders in LMP2. Sem 9 Axel now making their way out of pit lane. That gives Rasmus Andreasen from Burst Esport Good as Sunglasses in the 94 the lead, with Saba Kiss from Juices Motorsport Club rounding out the top 2. And looking at the distance between them, it looks like Saba Kiss has been on a binge of speed. Looks like that car might be coming into pit lane as we speak. He's on an in-lap, so there will be a signal that they'll give to the teams, and also via the server, Kieran, that they'll be now pitting on the next lap.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think there's a similar scenario going on for the race leaders, the DPI machine. Number 18, Burst Esports Simplexity, looks like they're on an in-lap as well, as they're making their way through the S's, so shouldn't be too long before we see them into the pit lane as well.
Yes, indeed. A little bit later on, we will be joined by Chris Buxton. He'll be from his Somerset HQ studios. We will, at some point later on this season, welcome him with open arms into the bosom of GTR 24 HQ here in Denmark, and we're looking forward when that opportunity comes, and it'll be good to have him alongside us in the studio. We have been, over the course of last season, we were all at home, apart from a few of us that came over in October last year to actually come to the studio. It was the first time in a year that Yusuf had actually been back to the studio here in Denmark. But wonderful, wonderful shots of these cars flying their way through the nighttime sky here at Matsusaka for the first of 6 rounds. We are just over 7 hours and 55 minutes remaining on the clock, and at the moment Michi Hoya, who has said that he will chat to us after his next stint in the car. I'm glad to have Michi with us. Good to speak to Robert Pawn, and also Kieran, going back to the strategy that the number 15 car is employing, which is now currently pitting as we speak, and they are sitting in pit lane. That car has been in the pit box for just 3/4 of a minute and climbing. Really good to hear the opportunity, well, the mindset of how Juices are approaching this. They're going absolute full throttle. Car is just leaving pit lane as we speak and has been in the pit box for nearly 60 seconds as the current leader, overall leader and DPI class leader, Burst Esports Simplexity, jumps into the pit box. But Yusuf said, I don't like the strategy of them keeping fresh, rotating the drivers every so often, but it is a proven strategy that can pay dividends when you've got nothing to lose and absolutely everything to gain.
Yeah, it's one of those scenarios where a team will pick that from the very get-go, to switch out drivers every single stop, and it will keep that sense of freshness throughout the entire team, which has its benefits. But the other downside of it would be that, is it long enough to allow yourself to get into that rhythm, into that momentum? Is it a long enough stint to really rubber down, get your head down and really set those consistent lap times? Or does it feel like you're being yanked away too soon if a driver's in good stead and putting in some good lap times, it's almost heartbreaking to take them out of the car to replace them.
Well, we just had a message on the Discord server from Pedro Delgado. Muito obrigado, Pedro, as they would say. That's thank you very much in Brazilian Portuguese or normal Portuguese. He says that, unfortunately, it's the end of the race for us. This message got to us just under 10 minutes ago. Sadly, we had a problem with the GPU usage and the frames per second dropping, making it impossible to continue. Well, Pedro, to you and all the team, we do have to say a very, very big thank you for what you've been able to do, and we look forward to seeing the Brazilian flag emblazoned McLaren 720S for round 2 at Monza. So thank you very much for joining the championship and also making sure that you gave us some good talking points, despite unfortunately the car's demise due to a technical issue with the software that you guys were using. But we'll hopefully see you back fighting at Monza in the latter part of March. There is a yellow out in Sector 2 as things currently stand. However, it's really been rather interesting in the LMP2 battle. I mean, you were watching in the broadcast booth when it all kicked off between Burst Esports Good of Sunglasses and Sem9 Axel. It was that you had the ringside seat, and myself and Yusuf were probably shouting the house down here in Denmark.
You were, but we just let you get on with it because it was great racing, and in the end, the Sem9 machine managed to get the position and make it stick, and has done a really good job since then. One thing that has caught my eye though is the fact that the number 53 machine in GTE currently shown as DNF. And that's the Musto Pescara car, one of the Musto Pescara cars.
Right, okay. I'm now going to expand on this, and thank you very much to this with regards to it. There is actually a storm in his locality at the moment, and it has... he's unsure now because there is a storm that destroyed the internet, that basically cut off his internet. And he said, I hope it's not an issue, so we will have no Eros Masciuli, because the car has actually got his name on it. And he said, I'm really, really annoyed about it, but I can't do anything. So he has made that, he's put that to race control, who have been informed accordingly. And you know what, considering the fact that we were looking forward to seeing the 53 car and the 54 car, the former being the defending champions, MPE under their previous guys, Musto GDE Sports, took the GTE title in fine style at Le Mans at the season finale last year. However, this is not always a bad thing, because as I said to Yusuf earlier, when you get to the well, I think it was you actually I was talking to you about this, where you get the double points for the Le Mans finale, where there's 54 on the cards if you win and pick up a maximum score. However, they can come back from it. It's only the first round. If it happened halfway through the championship, it'd be a completely different story altogether.
Yeah, it would indeed, and I guess it happening so early on, you'd be hoping that sort of luck sort of stays away from you for the rest of the season. So it's sure it'll be frustrating, but there will be frustrating times in an endurance series. You're racing for a long, long time. You're putting your hard way through, and who knows? Even the weather might have a say in whether or not you can race. It just seems like a cruel way to miss out on the action. But it does happen, and hopefully there'll be better weather next time around when we go to Monza, not only at the track, because it's been absolutely stunningly dry at Suzuka, but where everybody's racing as well. Hopefully the weather's not quite so intrusive into everybody's internet. I do see a message from one of our Mr. Chris Buxton, who said, has Kieran's voice been commentator cursed? I'd like to say yes, it has.
It's all Yusuf's fault.
It's all Yusuf's fault, yeah. Yeah, everything started to go downhill when he threw me under the bus. So,
and that was last night.
It's not got better.
It's all because of those damn things he's got on his feet, and I'm not mentioning that word. No. I have said I will not mention that word.
The poll as well contributed to this, with people agreeing with Yusuf. It's just not gone right.
It never rains, but it pours.
It does.
Am I right, Kieran?
It does. It does. Get the violins out, and
if he starts playing a fictional one in there, I think the first thing that we're going to have to do is give him a bit of a stern telling off after the broadcast when we finish it early in the hours of Sunday morning. But nevertheless, we get on with the business at hand. And there is number 94, João Pitaes, the Portuguese driver, now in the car, having taken over from Rasmus Andreasen. So Burst Esports, good sunglasses, the number 94. Now third in the class, Nabil Aslan leads, but it's Nalo Pastorino for Satellite Racing in the 164 that is in second. Cyberlinks Racing with Tigran Mkhitaryan that is now rounding out the class. It's not been an easy one when Alexis Zagorodnev got the drive-through penalty for overtaking under the formation lap, which in real-life motorsport is a big no-no, and there was a big old slap on the wrist and a slam dunk penalty from race control, which, we're simulating real-life racing as much as we can. As we see, that is the MCM car coming out of the pit lane. And João Pitaes gets round the outside rather quickly. Portugal known for quite a few spectacular drivers. Felipe Albuquerque and also Antonio Felix da Costa, the latter being former Formula E champion after Jean-Eric Verne won the title twice on the bounce under the same stable, DS Techeetah. And both have had their fair share of endurance races, particularly in this class. But I'm really looking forward to seeing how João Pitaes gets on, Kieran, as Bente Horvath for Team Iris, that rounds out the top 5, has put in the fastest lap for the car so far this race, 1 minute 46.063. Times are tumbling because of the fact that we're getting cooler temperatures now. Air temperature 16 degrees Celsius, track temperature 26.
Yeah, and that will work both ways. It allowed the engine to work harder without having the same ambient temperature outside wreaking havoc with it. On the flip side, when in terms of the track temperature, when that goes down, and as that goes further and further down, it sort of interferes with how much grip you have through each corner. Now at some circuits where it's built to really take on the track temperature and you can really punish the track, tracks that are normally close to the equator are sort of designed for that. But with Matsusaka here, in a case of, does the track get better? Do you get blistering on tyres if the track temperature is too warm? So it'll be interesting to see. On top of that, the qualifying sessions, some drivers and some teams were faster in the night. So I wonder if their cars are going to be set up better for these conditions, and whether we'll see their setups really come alive.
You've got to have that ultimate compromise, because ID SimSport have just gone exit stage left at the first corner. Whoops. That's what they don't need at this particular moment, and because of the fact that they're also down in the latter stages, I'm not too sure. Have you got a replay queued up by any chance?
I might have a replay queued up as they're making their way down the start-finish straight. Just give it time to make sure it captures every single angle, but I'll let you know once I've got it ready. Okay, no problems at all. So we'll leave Kieran to tee that up very, very shortly. João Barbosa, I think, is just coming to the pit lane. Cars in the pit box at the moment. 15 seconds for the number 74 car. So the front axle has hit the ground, so is the rear, and now the long, arduous process of refueling the car gets underway. Car's now been in the pits for 30 seconds, and that does not include the time for going down pit lane and then hitting pit exit. You have that replay queued up now for the ID SimSport machine. Let's see what happened as they made their way down the start-finish straight. So looking at it now, down in towards turn 1. What on earth happened here? Oh, that looked very bizarre.
Right.
The car seems to just go straight on there.
You might have to I'm not too sure, because I did try and see it on the big screen. Well, we'll wait to see. So just cue that back up again, I think, as the 74 Juices car has now exited pit lane. So whenever we get the signal to go... well.
We've already seen it, apparently.
Oh, we've already seen it, apparently. Okay, all right. No, that's fine.
Well, we can watch it again if you really want to.
Well, no, it's all right. We'll carry on. But yeah, that was a bit of a moment. Hit the kissy litter a little bit going through the first corner with that car. But Juice's Motorsport Club in the number 74 car. Just keeping an eye on where that is Joao Barbosa, has exited and rejoined, 27.7 seconds ahead of Ricky Jimenez for MCM Motorsport. So, and Gergo Balog is about 9.3 seconds behind Manuel Biancolila, and the 53 is parked in the garage, I'm afraid, especially with what happened with Eros Masciuli. So that is a real unfortunate thing to happen for that car. The defending champion's already on the back foot, but as I said earlier, there are still 5 more rounds, including the double points finale for Le Mans in late October this year. I'll give you a rundown of what exactly is going on in each of the respective categories. And Michi Hoya is going in on the 1 minute 47.1s. Looks like Muradnis E-Stars is in the pits now from second position on the road, which is the case. So Artem Shulayev is actually coming in this lap, and the Muradnis E-Stars car is still sitting in pit lane at the moment, and that's just about to pull away. 54 seconds. So the cars are moving in and out of pit lane quite significantly. Artem Shulayev and Romain Senior round out the top 4 in DPI. That's for Unison Racing. And so Senior running it out for the top 4. Alistair Young for Sem 9 Axel in 5th, and Viaducton running out the top 6 at the moment. And then for LMP2, it's Nabil Aslan leading Nello Pastorino by 6 seconds. Joao Pitaz, I think, has just come out of pit lane in the number 94 car. I've just seen the car out on track. It's going through the Degnas as we speak. Sabakis in 4th for Juices Motorsport Club. We caught up with Robert Pawn a little bit later on, with Team Iris and Cyberlinks Racing rounding out the top 6. Kieran, what's the running order at the moment for GTE and GT3, please?
Well, GTE at the moment, it's the 54 Musto Pescara car at the head of the field, the 67 Mugen Sim Racing in 2nd place, and Juices Motorsport Club rounding off the top 3 in their 74 machine. It's Ricky Jimenez in 4th place in the number 27 MCM Motorsport machine. Then it's the 717 Unison Racing machine, the 45 DIS Sim Racing Lab in 6th place, Satellite Racing in the 264 in 7th, and then the 166 of ID Simsport in 8th place. As we mentioned earlier, the 53 Musto Pescara car currently not running due to those weather issues that has unfortunately befouled of Eros Masciuli.
Last but by no means least, we've also got the GT3 action. Still very much underway. It's Glam Racing leading the way in the 404. I'm sure that Maria Rinak will be happy. There'll be a smile on her face, but at the moment we still have quite a lot of this race to go. 7 hours and 40 and a half minutes still remain, and it's still a battle between the two Audis. Valente Racing 585 by Aztec Simsport running out the top 2. B32 Racing still running on genuine pace, a P3, because of the fact that everyone else behind them has fallen into dramas. CKR out of the race because of the technical problem, and also with regards to the CPU and the frames per the second rate not helping. Unfortunately, they have pulled the car into the pits, and it's going to stay there. So a real shame for them. Adam Surej on the comeback trail. The Hungarian driver from the number 82 Mugen Sim Racing car rounds out the 6 that are still running in GT3. Gert Nielsen still behind the wheel of Teleforingen's 188 BMW M6 GT3, with Michael Ciccolini running out the top 4 for 777 DSR Gadget Huset Doddico, and has just brought out the yellow flag.
Not great at all, and riding on board then with the one of the LMP2 cars battled for 2nd place. We're riding on board with Joao Pitais in the 94 Burst Esport Gouda Sunglasses machine, chasing down the 164 Satellite Racing machine of Nello Pastorino as they now make their way in towards the Casio Triangle. And yet you can see there Joao Pitais had to leave some room on the left hand side there, because he knew the GT car was still on his inside. Now they make their way down the start-finish straight. Second place in class this battle is for. And Zhao talking away to his engineers down the short start-finish straight. The real bit of respite coming through.
Yeah, good to see a thumbs up from John Fabricius, our CEO, enjoying the coverage at the moment, but also he's hard at work behind the scenes, as is Niels, as is Peter, as is Yusuf, and also we'll have Chris joining us in probably the best part of just over an hour and a half's time. We're getting towards, I can't believe I'm saying this, Kieran, nearly 4.5 hours of the race completed. Before you know it, we'll be at half distance, and we're going to go right the way through to the wee hours of the morning, 2 o'clock Central European time, plus also, hopefully, we'll be speaking to some drivers a little bit later on. There is a lot of focus on the racing thereof, and sometimes we do try and get the drivers involved, but always it doesn't work like that. However, we will wait and bide our time, won't we, Kieran?
Oh, absolutely. And we're here for the long haul, and I know the drivers are as well. So, yeah, whenever they have a chance or they want to chat to us, we are more than welcome to have them on board. João Pitais, though, still trying to battle away as they make their way through the latter part of the spoon curve. Back onto the power they go, and onwards they run towards 130R. Nello Pastorino will be looking in his mirrors as they head their way on towards 130R. This flying left hand as João Pitais looks down the inside, maybe just to fill the mirrors of the 164 satellite racing machine of Nello Pastorino. And one of the ways these drivers will try and manufacture the move is by looking like they're going to fill the mirrors and just make the driver in front of them think about making a defensive move. Once they've got them into that mindset, and now they're caught in two minds, which way do they go? And you're halfway to try and making a manufactured move.
And also the person in front has to anticipate. Oh, that was close going through the first corner. And it's sideways for Pastorino. João Pitais is waiting in the wings to pick up the pieces the moment the ball is dropped. And through into the S is well held by Nello Pastorino. Ahead of João Pitais, the battle for second in LMP2 is very much on. And Nabil Aslan is about nearly 9.5 seconds in front of this battle. You can see that João Pitais will be looking to pounce at the earliest opportunity as we ride on board with the number 94 Burst Esports good at sunglasses. There's João Pitais on the left-hand side of your screens. Incredible amounts of concentration on the Portuguese driver's face, Kieran McGinley.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the amount of laps that João Pitais and all the drivers that are racing here tonight is fully on show. They still need that same level of concentration to get the lap right, time and time again, to hit every apex lap after lap, to get laps on the board hour after hour. It's a lot. It's draining on these drivers, and in a weird sense it is that you get to that towards the fatigue end, but you're so focused on hitting every apex and making sure each corner is as good as the last one. The time simply flies by, and we have seen here on GTR 24H, fuel has been an issue. Maybe not here today, but at the Le Mans finale, fuel was definitely an issue where drivers would have to get multiple warnings per lap, per corner, to say, you're running out of fuel, pit in this lap, otherwise you'll be stranded.
Pit this lap, box. Yeah. As Bono would say to one Lewis Hamilton. But you can see Nello Pastorino, rear view camera shot over the rear wing on your left. João Pitais, front end camera angle going into the first corner. You can see how these drivers are pushing to the limit of adhesion. We'll hopefully go to a brief break after this, but at the moment, the way things are, that João Pitais is reeling in hook, line and sinker one Nello Pastorino. The gap between them is around about half a second, and that gap looks to be diminishing quite substantially. I can see that is Tigran Mkhitaryan for that is Cyberlinks Racing just behind, and also it's not going to get any easier, but look how close he's getting is João Pitais. I feel that in the next 2 to 3 laps here, Kieran, that Nello Pastorino will be powerless to stop an advance from one Portuguese driver by the name of João Pitais.
Well, he's done well so far, the Satellite Racing driver, to keep João Pitais behind for now. So we'll have to wait and see how it all plays out. I've said that phrase a lot tonight, how it all plays out. Well, it is true in a sense. You've got to make sure You get the move right and just make sure you manufacture that move, make all the right moves, make all the right decisions. You won't make them all right all the way through, but get most of those decisions right. You'll be on to a winner as we head our way towards 130R. Pitai's here on board with the number 94 Burst Esports Gooder sunglasses. Machine coming down towards the Casio triangle, looking for a move down the inside, again making Pastorino think about putting on the anchors, getting a defensive move on, and more importantly making him try to change his line. Once this line changes, he's compromised himself.
Pastorino's got to anticipate what Joao Pitais will have underneath his sleeve. Will there be a royal flush? Will there be a house full of aces? We could find out momentarily. We're going to keep with this battle for just a couple of minutes more before we go to a commercial break. But the way that Pitais is doing what he does, he's closing in. Actually, you know what? It's actually time for a commercial break. We'll keep our eyes on the action here in the LMP2 battle for second position. We'll be right back. Well, I thought we were going to.
No, production said no on that one.
Yeah, computer says no. Well, we'll try and just keep our eyes on that one. But okay, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Be right back with us. This battle in LMP2 is a definite powder keg waiting to explode here at Matsusaka. We'll be right back. 2022 Endurance E-Racing World Championship brought to you in partnership with Viper Gaming by Patriot, Aztec Sim Sports, Global Flix, Motorvision.tv, Stengolm, ESTV and Film Vault Limited.
Racing for Green is here to help you carbon neutralize your racing. By planting new trees, Racing for Green offers to make your racing carbon neutral. We already have the calculations, contacts, infrastructure, deals and solutions ready for you to easily buy carbon neutral laps on any racetrack. It doesn't matter if you are a racing fan, team owner, driver, sponsor or partner. Anyone can buy CO2 neutral laps in the Racing for Green webshop and trade CO2 emissions for New Forest. Racing for Green.
Everyone, 7.5 hours remaining here at Matsusaka. Louis Mintel jumping in for Alex Goldschmidt and joined by Kieran McGinley. Now, GTE class has a bit of a battle underway. Manuel Biancalila leading the field, but he's only 4 seconds clear of the 74 juices of Joao Barbarossa, with Roland Zux a further half a second behind in the 67 Mugen Sim Racing car. So we're talking about less than 5 seconds separating our top 3.
Yeah, it's great to see, isn't it? Lots of drivers just making sure they put the pieces together and get themselves a piece of this action, because it's looking pretty good indeed. We're watching Roland Schulz there in the number 67. He's looking for a move up the inside, which he does get, and that's on the missed that number there, unfortunately, but
it was the satellite racing car.
it was. You're right.
The 264.
Yes, you're absolutely right there. So, there goes me missing the number. And you'd think in the night time, it'd get a little bit easier to spot the numbers with lights from every angle shining down.
I didn't see the number. I just saw the blue and red. And I was like, satellite. And then I tried to work out which satellite it was.
That's a very smart strategy.
Now, any Italians in the chat who are watching, however you may be watching, I've got some pretty bad news for you guys, because Eros Masquili, or Eros
Masciuli, I think.
Masciuli, he has DNF'd and he's not back in. I don't know if you guys
we did touch on Eros Masciuli. He has a storm in the prevalent area where he's racing, and unfortunately his internet's gone down, and that's it for now, unfortunately. So we've lost 2 drivers, or 2 teams from this race, the other one being I think you said the number 13 as well, the Brazilian liveried car, the CKR outfit. And unfortunately for them, they had hardware issues with their GPU, and FPS issues have meant and forced them to drop out of this race, as they say it's simply not possible and not safe enough to race.
It's a big shame from us, though. Again, it just seems that opening rounds are not their forte. We saw, I think it was Indianapolis last year, where they had the whole thing of leaving the pits in the wet on slick tyres and then spinning and then getting a penalty and all kinds of stuff. Lee Russell is within a couple of tenths of Adam State, but I just want to keep an eye on Roland Zux against João Barbosa, because, well, Adam State and Lee Russell are in different classes.
They are, yes, and running, at this stage in the race to still be in the running, it's good enough. You can always improve on where you are. As long as you're still in this race, all 4 wheels are still on the car, you're doing pretty well so far. And with 7.5 hours left on the clock, still a lot of racing to unfold here at Matsusaka.
As we're seeing the burst car of João Pitaias, who's currently 10 seconds behind Lorenzo Di Sweetis. Nabil Aslan, though, leading the LMP2 class, which I don't think is something that we were expecting at the start of this season, a few weeks ago, or indeed after qualifying.
No, and I'm just going to watch on with this GTE battle, because we've got a GT3 car that's it's the McLaren just it doesn't want to give up on his own position, but the GTEs are trying to find their way through. The Juices Motorsport João Barbosa trying to find his way through. He might try and move up towards the hairpin here at the moment, but Roland Schulz is just watching that with bated breath and seeing what on earth can happen here as they now make their way out onto the power and going through. It's the B32 racing machine, so that's second in class, and you've got Roland Schulz just flashing the lights of the Juices Motorsport outfit, just letting you know, I'm here.
Was that Roland Zux or João Barbosa flashing his lights? I'm not quite sure. It was definitely one of them flashing. B32 still in the way of the pair of them. This is the battle for your GTE second position. Manuel Biancalila, the further 7 seconds are up the road. That's not him. That's the ID Sim Sport car still. B32 keeping these 2 at bay. B32 second in the GT3 class. A bit of contact, but João Barbosa is through. Roland Zux looking for the outside into the Casio triangle. Needs to get the move done quickly, otherwise we'll lose a whole bunch of time. And does exactly that. Both of them clear now of B32 as they make their way onto start, finish straight to start a new lap. And in the corner of your screen, you can just see Manuel Biancalila taking the opening corner.
Yeah, and B32, they're not willing to just sort of let that one go lying down. And, well, a little bit of hard battling might have cost himself some time, might have cost the team some time, but when you're out there and you're trying to battle away, it's very clear. In fact, I might know the reason why. and it could be because of this reason here. Lee Russell trying to find his way through. I think the B32 racing machine knows that the Glam racing machine is nearby and doesn't want to give away too much pace. That makes much more sense as to why the B32 racing machine didn't want to yield so easily.
Yeah, and that satellite racing car of Adam State sandwiched in between this GT3 battle is making things a bit more entertaining as Lee Russell's back end stepping out through Degner 1. Meanwhile, the Viaducting car going past the two GTE cars. He's having a much easier time than the GTE cars had on finding a way through the GT3 that we saw earlier.
Yeah, and riding on board with Lee Russell, it's the 264 satellite racing machine just ahead as they make their way through and seeing what they can do on the back end of the circuit in towards the spoon curve. And this is going to cost Lee Russell just a slight bit of time through the corners as he's trying to find that way through still in towards the second part of the spoon, back onto the power. Might get a little bit of slipstream now towards 130R, but running side by side through 130R is risky at the best of times. Yusuf is closing, maybe a flash of the lights there. Oh, that was the LMP2 car barreling its way through to really take that position. Nabil Aslan, I think that was, charging through and just making sure they João Pitay, sorry, my apologies, charging through there, just making sure he doesn't lose a lot of time. But in terms of Lee Russell, he is losing a little bit of time now.
João Pitay still pushing, just over 30 seconds behind Nabil Aslan, is at 2.5 seconds clear of Zabakis. The last time round, Zabakis actually going 0.2 slower than the 94 burst car. And let's see if Zabakis can pick up the pace and close back in. Not much time between the two cars in this battle for second in your LMP2 class. But Roland Zook still trying to close in as, is that a move from Lee Russell? No, not quite. Gonna have to sit behind through the S's. However, the pair of them are closing into that B32 car. You can see it getting bigger and bigger on your screen.
Yeah, that's very true. But with Lee Russell trying moves as well, it's going to see the satellite racing machine maybe try and take a defensive line through the second Degner curve. A little bit of a missed apex there, and that's another reason. Getting very close then in towards the hairpin. Did very well on the brakes, did Lee Russell, to keep that out of the back of the satellite racing Corvette as they make their way through 200R. That's another thing that these drivers are going to have to really keep their wits about them, as we've said all the way through. The likes of the hypercars and the LMP2s, we saw that was Cyberlink Racing making their way through. That is going to be a concern that the GT cars are going to have to be careful about when and where they make their moves, because chances are, and it always seems to happen when at the least convenient time where you want to make an overtake, here comes a hypercar, here comes an LMP car.
And Lee Russell just going to have to bide his time. Eventually they will close on to that B32 car if they are able to continue with the pace that they have been showing. You can see that satellite racing car very close now to a B32. On your other screen you can see Roland Zooks trying to close in onto João Barbosa. 1 second between the pair of them. João Barbosa in the white and red Juice's car, Roland Zooks in the silver and a blue BMW.
Yeah, Lee Russell looks like he's got the move then down the inside, and it looks like he has indeed. So he gets that position on Adam State, it was, in that 264 satellite racing car. But I'll tell you what, Adam State's still looking for that way back through on Lee Russell there. But the most important thing for Lee Russell is he has that position now. He can now try and close in on the 32B32 racing machine.
Lee's got the pace and he's closing in onto B32. Just quickly while we talk about that, I just want to get a quick update on the Mugen 82 car, and they are 77 seconds behind Carl Lukagor, and they're around about 3 laps off the race lead. About 3 laps off.
Yeah, here we go in towards the hairpin. Lee Russell taking a wider line on entry, and then on the exits try and get the power down earlier. They're going to run side by side all the way through 200R, and the B32 machine still in the lead of the GT3 class. but Lee Russell is applying this pressure and then some, heading up towards Spoon Curve. We will go. What the line's like going to be through here. Yeah, Lee Russell has to back out of that one, as the B32 racing machine had pretty much got the car planted exactly where he wanted it, and now on the run on towards 130R. You see there the B32 racing machine trying to break the slipstream on towards 130R. We will go, and then to the Casio triangle. Lee Russell taking a much more aggressive line across the curb in towards the Casio triangle. He's going to try and go for the move then in towards the triangle. He'll have to compromise the first part, back onto the power out of the second part, and still no way through. But that's allowing the Satellite Racing Corvette to simply swoop by and take that position back from Lee Russell that he worked so hard to get past in the first place.
And Lee Russell's going to have to do it all over again. He tucks in behind the Satellite Racing car. Now he's looking down the inside into turn one, really late on the brakes. So from Glam Racing, they get back ahead of a Satellite, but they are still critically behind B32. And Lee Russell thought, hey, I can look for the switchback coming out the Casio triangle, and Satellite Racing said, no, because I'm going to throw my nose down the inside. Is not what Lee Russell wanted. Adam State kind of ruining this battle between the GT3 cars, but he doesn't care. He's in his own race. He just wants to have a bit of fun. But B32 will now have to defend once again from the 404 of Lee Russell.
It's a good line from Lee Russell through the Dunlop bend as they now make their way on towards the Degner curves, and side by side through here doesn't normally work. Oh, there's a bit of contact. There is contact, but they're both facing the same way still. B32 still leading this class, with Glam Racing right behind as they head their way up towards the hairpin.
Can Lee Russell send it? He's going to try to send it around the outside. Maybe could look for a switchback or just hang it around the outside throughout the entire corner. In the end, he is unsuccessful. Satellite Racing right on their tails. And as you mentioned, Kieran, this is the battle for the GT3 class elite. I don't get how we're this far into the race and we're still getting so many battles for class leads. It's absolutely fantastic. As B32 a little bit late on the brakes, and Lee Russell closes in through Spoon corner. He's able to hold it tighter through the second part of Spoon. Gets on the power earlier. Surely he gets to drive out of the corner, but that B32 Corvette just seems absolutely ridiculous in a straight line.
Well, they've got the Corvette of Satellite Racing behind as well to really keep an eye on, as well as they head their way towards the Casio triangle once again. Will the Glam Racing car look for a move? Not this time around. Heading in towards the Casio triangle, but again trying to take a compromised entry into the triangle to prioritise the exit. Down this run we go onto the start finish straight, and Yusuf once again heading our way down towards the first corner. B32 Racing still leading the class.
Yeah, and thanks for correcting me on that. It's the B32 McLaren. The Corvette is for that 264 Satellite car just behind Lee Russell, though not close enough to make a move into turns 1 or 2. He's going to have to sit behind through the S's. Maybe he could look for something crazy into the Degner. Otherwise, he's going to have to wait once again for the hairpin. Look how much faster Lee Russell's Glam Racing Audi is through the S's. It just sticks to the track so much better than the McLaren.
It does, as we head our way through those final parts of the S's. Now through the Dunlop curve again, Lee Russell gets a better run on the entrance, but he hasn't really anywhere to put that spare momentum. He has to tuck behind the McLaren once again, heading our way in towards the Degner curves, and this is a battle that could go on for quite some time. And we're seeing now as he makes his way up towards the hairpin once again. And there might be a sense of frustration here for Lee Russell, because not only does he have a battle in front of him in the B32 machine, but he's also got to be careful of that Satellite Racing machine behind him as well. So that's something that they are going to have to keep their eyes on as they make their way through. And Viducton, meanwhile, also wanting to be a part of this battle, but waiting to try and find a way past. And, well, they just about managed to stay out of trouble just for now.
Yeah, I don't know about you, Kieran, but I can't see anything, so hopefully that's not the case for our viewers. Otherwise we can get the battle back up. And there is Satellite Racing on the rear end of Glam Racing. They're going to look for the outside on the run towards 130R. Can they get the move done? Oh, contact on the entry. The pair of them will run wide. Glam Racing hold on to track position, and I think that is Teleforinningen now joining into the fray as well.
It is, and they want a piece of the action. They've seen this great battling, and they say, you know what, we want one as well, as they head their way through onto the start finish straight. Once again, what it has done though is it's split up this battle, really. B32 have now come into the pit lane, which brings an end to that battle. And Yusuf, I think we can go straight over and really recover from that one.
Yeah, I think that is a Michi Hoyer on our screen, so I think we might be getting an interview with him shortly. He has just jumped out of his chair, so maybe while we were watching all that action in the GT and the GT3 classes, he was just sat there patiently waiting.
Yeah, and unfortunately the battle just kept going and going and going, and we just couldn't keep our eyes off of it, could we? But no, it was a great battle between them all, and it's been put on hold for now because the B32 car is currently in the pit lane.
Well, B32 into the pits, that's going to unleash Glam Racing, but guess what? The battling is not done just yet. GTE class still battling the 67 Mugen car right on the rear end of Deuces. They're actually catching up to one of the ID SimSport cars, and this might give Mugen an opportunity to find a way through. Otherwise, maybe it'll be like the B32 incident all over again, with Mugen ending up dropping 1 to 2 seconds behind.
It could be, and Roland Shoes here knows he's got to play this patient. We left this battle last time with the running order the same as Viaduct and a squeeze.
Oh, that's a big incident, and that is the Mugen car upside down through 130R. Oh, it's all gone terribly, terribly wrong in the GTE class. That is not how you wanted your battle for the lead to end, not even between your two class leaders, but between the GTE car and the hypercar, pardon me, not the hypercar, the DPI car.
Yeah, and to me it looked like Viaducton had a bit of a squeeze. They thought they had the corner before they actually did.
Straight into the pits as well.
Yeah, straight into the pits. There's going to be a lot of damage on that car. The fact that they've got it going again is really good, but there is going to be a lot of damage on that car. And Yusuf, I think we might be looking at that one again and again and again.
Yeah, well, I'll get that replay up, but first I think we've got Michi Hoyer waiting for us.
Hello.
Sorry, Mitchy, we've had you waiting for a long time. It's these GT cars, they don't stop battling.
Yeah, it is interesting because passing them is a real challenge, especially when they're battling, and sometimes they go side by side through the S's, and despite the DPI is not the most efficient corner and most efficient car in the corners, when they go side by side, the road is literally blocked, and you have nothing else to do than sit behind and impatiently wait for them to stop battling.
Well, so far things are going okay for you guys, I think, by your very high standards.
Yeah, I think there's nothing we can mourn about. Obviously, I think we're roughly 1 lap ahead of the Muratness car. Not quite sure what they are doing strategy-wise. Like, we're looking at it for the last couple of hours, but we haven't really found a solution on what they are actually doing or what they are actually trying to achieve. But so far things are looking really good indeed. The biggest threat really is dealing with the traffic. There is some 1 or 2 DPI cars that hardly react on blue flags, which is something that should hopefully be fixed for the future. But apart from that, things are looking good, and now it's about staying in that position for another 7.25 hours.
So when you're in this position, Mitchy, where you've got yourselves a large lead, how do you approach the rest of the race? Does it become a case of taking it more safely when navigating through the back markers, or do you just try to continue with the race as you were before and continue taking the same risks?
Things change a little bit. Like in the beginning of the race, especially in the first stint and the first laps without traffic, I've kept lapping the 45s, 45 high, 45 mid. Now I think in that stint that I just did now, there was not even a single 45 lap. So yeah, you're taking it a little bit more easy in general. So you don't go 100% corner by corner, you just go 95% in, but still with a little bit of a push, because if you start letting go, if you start not to push with this car, then there is a quite significant chance of mistakes. Those brakes are very weak compared to the engine of the car, so you have a very, very long braking zone, and usually when you're not pushing 100%, doing a little bit of lift and coast, doing a little bit of, I'll just brake early and stuff, but you don't brake with the same aggression, then those brakes do not work at all. In other news, if you are starting just to cruise around too much, you suddenly find yourself going wide in a spot where you rather not go wide and may end up in the barrier. So as much as you try to take it easy, and as much as you try to not to not risk everything, at the same time you're still pushing and kind of keep doing your race. As in for the traffic, of course, you don't go necessarily into every little gap, and you don't dive a GTE if it's not 100% necessary because you're fighting for a position right now. So from that regard, of course, you take it a bit easier.
And right now as well, just double checking, both of your burst cars are leading. Is there any communication between the pair of you to help each other out if one of you did get into a difficult spot?
No, not really so far. Both of our cars looking at their own race. I had a situation where our LMP2 driver was lifting to let me by to lap them right in the beginning of sector 1.
Okay. Kieran, do you have any questions you'd like to throw to Mitchie?
I think we've lost his audio at the moment. Hopefully we can get that back at some point. We'll just let him know when we can hear us again. But Mitchie, you can hear us? No. I'm
going to take that as a no.
I can. Someone muted me, so.
Okay.
I'm back.
Don't go just yet.
Hello.
Hello, Mitchie. Sorry, this croaky voice commentator has just got one question for you before you head off. I mean, it looks like you're having fun out there. Simply put, you've got a commanding lead out there. Your next driver or your next car is the 64 Satellite Racing Machine. I mean, just talk us through what's the mood at Burst at the moment.
Oh, well, we are just trying to.
And it looks like.
Speaking of.
All right, I take that full blame. A little bit of a spin there on the 1X of 130R. But apart from that, Mitchie, how's it all going? How's the mood at the camp?
Yeah, we call it commentator's curse, but things are fine, really. Apart from that spin now, we got a little bit of damage on the car, but it's nothing too serious, nothing too much to worry about. And from that point on, we're just trying to survive and trying to stay in the position as much as we can. And hopefully bringing that victory home. I think it's safe to say anything less than a victory would be a disappointment today.
Well, Mitchie, thank you so much for having a chat to us, and good luck for yourself and the team for the rest of the race.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Mitchie Hoyer there at Burst Esports, and apart from that slight spin...
Yeah, Kieran, how does it feel now being the reason that a team had an incident?
I've got a croaky throat. I think I can be given some respite. But yes, I did cause that, and I take full responsibility.
Now, if we could go back to this replay, this is how it all went so terribly wrong for the Mugen Sim Racing team in the GTE class. So we are getting it up on the screen. So Roland Zux driving, and Viaducton just comes across him, and I think Roland Zux then got a bit of a roller coaster ride.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell with the wheel movements on board there that he took his hands off the wheel, which is probably a good idea when the car's halfway through the air. You never know what that force feedback is going to do, but he did come back out of the pit lane though. How much damage is still left on the car remains to be seen, but that's one for the stewards to have a look at as we draw ever closer to the next hour, Yusuf.
Ever closer. Well, it is 6:57 on my Danish time, my wonderful Danish monitor, which means that there is just over 7 hours remaining in the race, and I think this might be a good opportunity to give a quick rundown of your class leaders. So in the DPI class, it is Burst Esports Simplexity, the number 18 car. And then heading down into the LMP2 class is currently actually Nabil Aslan leading in the 21 SEM 9 axle, but they have to make a stop. So So the lead will then default back over to Burst Esports. Got our sunglasses in the 94. GTE's Manuel Biancalila leading in the 54 Musto Pescara car. And in the GT3 class, which will, I'm sure, make a certain Alex Goldschmidt very happy, is a Glam Racing and the 404 of Lee Russell.
Yeah, absolutely. And we leave you then at the top of the hour. We'll be back very shortly after these commercial messages.
The 2022 Endurance E-Racing World Championship brought to you in partnership with Viper Gaming by Patriot, Azatec Sim Sports, Global Flix, Motorvision.tv, Stengolm, ESTV, and Film Vault Limited.
Racing for Green is here to help you carbon neutralize your racing. By planting new trees, Racing for Green offers to make your racing carbon neutral. We already have the calculations, contacts, infrastructure, deals and solutions ready for you to easily buy carbon neutral laps on any racetrack. It doesn't matter if you are a racing fan, team owner, driver, sponsor or partner. Anyone can buy CO2 neutral laps in the Racing for Green webshop and trade CO2 emissions for New Forest. Racing for Green.